if you don't mind, where's everyone tuning in from? If you could put those answers in the Q&A chat box. Where are you tuning in from? Chicago? Okay, cool. Very cool. You have a particular Cleveland? We've got Cleveland, okay. Again, for those of you who are signing in, if you could, please let us know that you can hear and see us and that you can see the liberal arts concentration and resources on the screen. We'll begin shortly. But right now we are asking, where is everyone tuning in from? We got Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Everything is working well. Wonderful, wonderful. Thousand Oaks, California. Okay. Yeah, we got a lot of great programming this week for the Open risd. Tomorrow, I will be hosting the Residence Life Office and Center for Student Involvement. So tune into that tomorrow if you get the chance. And then at the end of the week, we also have fine arts, and then we'll have academic resources on Friday, along with some other departments like architecture. But yeah, we have a great lineup this week. So we got Portland, Oregon. We got Bedford, Massachusetts. All right, very close by. All right. Damian, you got some good lighting on you. Yeah, the stripes. It's very artsy. Now it's almost like you had a hat, a light hat. All right, so it's 4:33. So I think it's safe to get started. You okay with that? Okay, so again, welcome everyone to our Open risd Liberal Arts Concentration and Resources presentation. My name is Antonio Peters. I'm one of the admissions officers here at risd. I'm also a graduate of risd 2004 from the illustration department. And again, welcome you all, welcome to this wonderful event and presentation. And so real quick, I will be behind the scenes answering questions in the Q&A chat box. So I'll have my camera turned off and be answering questions in the Q&A chat box. So if you have questions, feel free to send them to the Q&A chat box. And I'll turn it over to our main presenter to introduce themselves.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me just pull up my presentation here. Welcome everyone, absolutely delighted to make your acquaintance. Okay, here we are. Can you all see? Antonio, can you give me a thumbs up?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so welcome. My name's Damian White. I'm Dean of Liberal Arts, and I'm also a professor of sociology and environmental studies. Welcome. We're absolutely delighted to have you on this webinar. Liberal arts is an integral part of the risd experience, and here I have just a picture of the building that much of our activities go on in Providence. We're spread across the campus, but a lot of liberal arts classes are held in College Building, which is one of the oldest buildings on the campus, and it has a whole range of murals which try and capture the key elements of a risd education. So up on the wall, as you'll see, we've got a sculpture mural which captures the fine arts as integral to risd. So this is a really beautiful sculpture that we have up on our college building. And then we have the industrial arts, what used to, the term that often people referring to design might refer to as the industrial arts in the early 20th century. And then we have the liberal arts. And so why, you might ask, you know, would you come to an art and design school to study art, to study design, to study the creative process, but also study the liberal arts? Well, if you come to RISD, over 42 credits across your 4 years, or if you do architecture, 5 years of your bachelor's education will be immersed in the liberal arts. And why is that? Well, if we think very simplistically, we might say that the fine arts, are primarily focused on skills for creating and inventing. They're particularly focused on, the visual, the possibilities of beauty, the possibilities of visual disruption. We might say that historically the industrial arts were understood as skills for designing products and services historically back in the 1920s. But the liberal arts were seen as a foundation stone for RISD and a RISD education as well, because they're central for understanding humanity, understanding society, and understanding nature more broadly through the natural sciences and also through the humanities as well. So if you come to RISD, you certainly should expect to experience a world-class education in art and design, to be sure, but this will also be enmeshed with an outstanding general education, the possibilities of focused study in the liberal arts as well as in art and design, and then many, many more opportunities to deepen and enrich your studio practice. So we really aspire in RISD both to provide a world-class education in art and design, but match that with a world-class education in the liberal arts as well. So what about the contemporary moment then? Why might we think liberal arts, art and design, are intimately weaved together and very much embedded in the same project? But a really interesting book by Richard Sennett writes about the history of craft, and throughout this wonderful book, well worth reading for those of you out there, he talks about how art and design education is intimately involved in making and thinking, and that thinking through making is, a really important historical creative activity and process. So you can think through making, you can make through thinking. There's an intimate quality to art and design, which is enmeshed in not just craft practices, but thinking about broader, wholes that you're trying to bring about. It's also the case that art and design education is to be sure about producing creative artists and designers, but you are also going to do many more things in your lives which are related to art and design, but touch into other spheres of activities. So, part of the point of a university education, a college education, is to cultivate free citizens, educated publics, and well-rounded human beings. So you're going to come to RISD to hopefully immerse yourself in the skills of art and design, architecture, filmmaking, printmaking, of the many, creative subjects. But we're also going to be concerned to, expand your understanding of the world more broadly still. And why is this? Well, art and design education is about producing artists, designers. It's about producing citizens. But when you embark on the creative act, you're also involved with trying to think about many different kinds of peoples and cultures across time and space as well. So, you're involved when you are engaged in art and design in opening up a conversation with the conversation of humankind, if you like, more generally. And that's what art and design aspires to. And so what do we aspire to in the liberal arts? How does it feel if you were to come to RISD? Well, as you may well have a sense at the moment, a RISD education in its first year has a very intense studio practice where you'll be honing a full range of studio skills in painting, drawing, 2D and 3D modes of design and craft making and other kinds of skill sets in the studio. But at the same time, you're going to experience a very high quality liberal arts education based around small classes and seminars where really grappling with the central concerns of a particular field and a particular discipline is very, very important. And so whilst your studio experience is very intense, many risd students find that the liberal arts classes that they take running alongside studio gives them a certain amount of respite almost from the intensity of the studio, a different vantage point to view the world. Sometimes it's deeply enmeshed and augments their interests, but sometimes it takes them entirely out of their studio and it forces them to read a novel, or it forces them to grapple with an issue in the natural or social sciences. It forces them to think about art history and design history, and sometimes takes them out of their world in the studio, but also it allows them to return. So we live in worlds at the moment very much super saturated by instrumental thinking, being focused on the quickest and most efficient means to achieving the quickest and most efficient ends. We're very much focused on fast knowledge and the hot take. We wake up in the morning, many of us get our tea and coffee and scroll through Twitter, scroll through the hot take of the day. But of course, a great deal of learning requires us to slow down. A great deal of learning is involved in grappling with complexity, grappling with context, grappling with slower forms of thinking that might take longer periods of time to reflect on, and also might require us to link up more broadly to the conversation of humankind. So this is what the liberal arts are present to add to art and design education, and they're about thinking about the conversation of humankind more broadly, but also thinking differently and being open to other perspectives. So you will come to risd and you will find yourself both in your studio and in your liberal arts classes, challenged with new ideas, with different vantage points. You'll come into a context where not everyone agrees. You'll come into a context that is marked by students situated in who come from all parts of the world and might have very different opinions and thoughts to you. So this is the space where you work through those ideas, you think through what's at stake, and you try and position yourself in these discussions. So the liberal arts then is really central. As I've mentioned before, for a kind of first year students, sometimes the liberal arts classes that you'll take, are an area for respite. Sometimes they're an area for reinvention. Sometimes they allow for, new forms of connection between their preferred disciplines and the liberal arts scholarship, and sometimes it allows for entirely new ways of thinking. So people came out of risd like the founders of Airbnb, who found that connecting up the studio work in industrial design with the ways in which they were taught to think historically and about complexity, both in the natural and social sciences, really grounded their project of thinking about Airbnb. So let me tell you a little bit more about our departments. So we have 4 departments in liberal arts. We have a department of literary arts and studies, which really stretches from global literatures to performance, to poetics, to study of film, and visual culture more broadly. We have the Department of History, Theory and History of Art and Design, and here you'll engage with art history, design history, architectural history, museum studies, art theory. We have a Department of History, Philosophy and the Social Sciences, which covers, all manner of areas from political economy and aesthetics to anthropology, environmental studies, gender studies, and so on. And then we have a Department of Teaching and Learning in Art and Design, which is really focused on art and design education. It's very focused on reaching out to the public, to the community in Providence and beyond. We run an amazing program called Project Open Door, which educates teenagers 16 to 18 in Providence, and helps them develop their portfolios, develop their access to art and design education. And we also provide classes for students who might be interested to become art and design teachers. So it's very much focused on pedagogy and teaching and the skills to develop that. And so we also have a range of concentrations. Each of the department runs concentrations in literary arts and studies, in history, philosophy, social sciences, a full range of concentrations beyond that, in art history, design history. We also have a concentration in nature, culture, sustainability studies. A couple of beautiful posters here that I'm showing you, done by one of our graphic design professors, Anais Rayner, who did some amazing posters for a conference series that we did on climate futures design and the just transition a couple of years ago. So let me tell you a little bit about your course of study in the liberal arts. So broadly speaking, you're going to do 42 credits in liberal arts across your total number of courses. You will do, sorry, excuse me there, just pull that down. So you will do 12 credits in theory and history of art and design. You'll take 2 first-year classes in global modernisms and history of architecture and design, and then you'll take 2 elective credits after that. You'll take 9 credits in literary arts and studies, 1 first-year seminar, and then 2 electives after that. You'll take a first-year seminar in history, philosophy, and the social sciences, and then 2 electives after that. And then finally, you have 4 elective credits in general liberal arts areas. And once you complete the first year program, you can take your courses either in risd, or you can go up the hill to Brown and complete electives there. So in the first year, you'll take an amazing art history survey course called Theory and History of Art and Design. And this is a class you'll take in your first full semester, which gives you an overview of global modernisms in the world of art since about the 1750s onwards. And then in your second semester, you'll take a course on the critical histories of architecture and design, which will look at the ways in which architecture, design, material culture more generally has been experienced, perceived, built, designed, the histories, the stories, the politics, the cultural intersections across 5 continents and over a much broader vantage point. So all these classes are focused on a number of different continental foci: South America, North America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australasia. We try and offer a cosmopolitan view and a global view of how architecture, design, art history have developed across the ages. Very exciting courses. In your first semester as well, you'll take a literary arts and studies seminar, which will be occurring in a 15-person class where you'll study literary arts with some really amazing teachers. And then in the spring semester, you'll have the option to take a range of courses in history, philosophy, and the social sciences. Again, a small semester of about 15 students. And this is me teaching environmental studies and climate change a while back. So at risd, we teach regular liberal arts classes, the kind that you'd find, in any elite private college. But we also teach many other kinds of classes that are quite unique to risd. So we have a considerable range of classes that combine the studio and the liberal arts context. Just to give you some examples here. This is a class called The Witness Tree. It's a class taught by a liberal arts history professor and a professor in furniture making. And what this class does is it works with the National Park Service to identify trees that have been historically situated in critically important historical political contexts. So recently, the students studied with a set of trees that overlooked the Gettysburg battlefields during the Civil War. And the National Park had trees that were coming to the end of their life. So they basically chopped them down, produced them as wood, and shipped them to risd. And risd, in the Witness Tree course, worked with the historian and the furniture professor to study the history of the world, the battles, the conflicts that particular tree had witnessed across its lifetime. And students then went on to both write papers around this, but also to furnish a full range of objects through the semester. We also have courses that might bridge areas like literary arts and design. So my colleague Mairead Byrne teaches, a professor in literary arts and studies, teaches many courses which bridge performance, design, multimedia, digital media, and brings them together. And then we do a full range of classes which integrate people working, say, in environmental studies with colleagues working in architecture, or colleagues working in natural sciences with colleagues working in illustration. We have an extensive science curricula in addition to the social sciences, where again, co-teaching is often quite common. So we have sometimes colleagues from the animation department co-teaching with one of our natural scientists to develop new innovative courses on how to visualize the natural sciences. And then more broadly, I'll just finish by saying that one of the striking aspects of coming to risd is just the full range and diversity of the kinds of courses that you could take here. So we have over 300 courses and collaborations going on every semester. They can range from medieval illuminated manuscripts to Japanese Aikido prints, European art, cinema, contemporary photography. This is what we've got on in fall. So just an extraordinary range of courses to develop your interests. And again, we have courses that are often linked up with industry. So we've done courses where you link up philosophy, literature studies, and design. We've worked with MIT to develop courses around Lego and making and literature studies. Generally speaking, then the liberal arts courses are very rigorous, often very experimental, and really contributing in a very strong way to art and design education. So I think I'll leave it there and see if any of you folks have got any questions or queries. Antonio, do you want to?
Sure. Yeah, there was a question that came in. Let's see. Well, the question was regarding cross-registration with Brown University. If students can get credit for the language classes they take at Brown.
They can, yeah. So you can take up to 4 classes as LAEL classes, liberal arts open electives, and we can transfer them. But you can also take, courses in natural sciences, humanities, social sciences at Brown and at risd. So most students kind of move between, and that's a relatively straightforward process.
Okay. When it comes to creative writing, can a student pursue an interest in creative writing?
They can, yeah. We've got a whole group of faculty involved in creative writing, screenwriting, poetry, performance. So these are all key areas of interest, and many of our students are, very intently interested in those areas, to be sure.
Okay, so those are all the questions we have, folks. Any questions you have in regards to liberal arts, especially being a first-year student, being a transfer student, these are, very important courses that we have here at risd, especially when it comes to an art and design environment. Not only are we interested in helping you develop as an artist, but also help you develop your writing skills and how writing liberal arts can inform your art and art inform liberal arts. And especially when you're doing research, finding inspiration. I remember taking a liberal arts course, and it was history of dance. And I learned so much. It was just, I didn't think a course like that would, happen at risd. And I was like, this sounds really interesting. And learning about, different forms of dance and how that shaped different cultures and how that's perceived, in other places. So it was really interesting to see how that all played out. But, having to, because you do have to write papers, which I also could bring up with, a focus on liberal arts, having to write papers. Are there resources to help support students who might struggle with writing?
Sure, yeah. So we have, I would say, somebody just sent a question: are the classes graded? Yes, absolutely they are. I would say that our liberal arts classes are no different to the type of classes that you'd have at Brown or any other liberal arts college. So they're exactly the same form, content, level of rigor. To be sure, though, we for those who for students who sometimes need support, we have got an excellent centre for writing and learning, and we have course tutors that can help you, and writing tutors in particular. So we have got a very good support system for folks who might need to avail themselves of that. But yeah, so generally speaking, I would say that all our liberal arts classes are, entirely, no different to that which you would get at any other small liberal arts college. The only difference would be that we are obviously much better, much more interesting, and much more experimental and bold, and our faculty are just more fun and even better qualified. So you can expect that and more. How's that?
I did include a link to the witness tree in the chat, folks. So feel free to make sure you copy and check that out. In regards to resources, if folks want to read more about the liberal arts, I did include the risd.wordpress.com link that sends you directly to the liberal arts division, and also gives you a little bit of the breakdown in terms of, how it's all categorized and, like the different departments within the liberal arts. But yeah, any questions in regards to the first year liberal arts? In regards, Damian, do you know any in regards to if a student takes AP Art History, AP courses, IB Liberal Arts, A-level Liberal Arts, and those are transferable?
Yeah, so students can get elective credit for a range of AP classes depending on your grade. Everyone takes the first year classes, both in terms of studio and liberal arts. But we look at your transcript as you come in, and we basically ascertain what could transfer over. And I believe students can transfer, is it 3 courses? But they've got to get a certain grade in the AP. They've got to get a high grade. Do you have any advice on getting into risd? Well, we were talking about this, Antonio. I mean, shall I answer and you tell me where I've gone wrong? Yeah, here. This would be my impression, okay? My impression would be that you've got to have a really strong portfolio. So you should start work on that now, and that you need 15 to 20 very strong pieces that reflect the kind of depth and character of your art making or your creative process. And I think that people are generally looking for that, technical accomplishment is often good, but they're looking for a kind of identity, a personality to the work. They're looking for something, there's people who have got something distinctive to articulate to the world. So good, a very good quality portfolio. And beyond that, they're looking for somebody who's a good citizen. So somebody who's engaged at some level in their community. We like to bring in students. Most of our students are fairly strong at school and are good scholars. And anything else? Is there anything I've said there that's...
Oh, that's all. Yeah, I agree with all of that. And definitely, we take a holistic approach to the admissions process, and and as Damian said, strong portfolio. At the same time, we also want to make sure students who we're looking for, like well-rounded, like not just in the portfolio, but also maintaining a good grade point average. We also like to see not only how you express yourself through your artwork, but also through your writing. So when it comes to the risd essay, which is the Common App essay, which has like 7 prompts to choose from, that is your golden opportunity to express yourself through your writing. Like, again, how does your writing complement your portfolio? How does your portfolio complement your grades? All those things will pull together, to represent you without you being there. We do not conduct personal interviews. So your essay has to stand on its own, has to showcase who you are through your writing. Portfolio has to showcase who you are visually. So you have your grades, your portfolio, and your essay. Again, these things are working to represent you and put your best foot forward, best practices. My advice, get advice from us in regards to your portfolio. Are you going in the right direction? But definitely folks who have something to say. I always like to mention this. When we're looking at applicants, we're trying to get a sense of how you're going to impact the studio environment. How are you going to enrich the environment here at risd? And how do we see that through your essay, through your portfolio? It's a peer-to-peer learning environment. You're learning a lot from each other in class. You're not just learning from faculty, you're learning from the people who are local to Providence. You're learning, from folks who are, who are your RAs, your orientation leaders, faculty, studio technicians. I mean, so many people are influencing you, but at the same time, you're like, how can you influence me? How can I influence you? So just really think about that. There was something else in here. Oh, there's another.
Let me ask you this. How important is diversity in work? I'm a painter and I'd like to submit primarily paintings. The works would be diverse. Is this fine? So
yes, diverse.
Media.
Yeah, diverse portfolio, having a portfolio that's drawing, painting, sculpture, not just painting, but also concepts and ideas are important in a portfolio. So having a diverse, I would say, try to mix it up a little bit with the materials, but focus on materials that you know really well. But at the same time, focus on different concepts in your portfolio, different ideas, so that we can see how you tackle different concepts. And when it comes to showcasing your portfolio, you can include writing in terms of descriptions in your portfolio. So again, we will use your Common App essay, we'll use your descriptions, your additional essay. If you want to include additional information about yourself in the Common App, we will read that as well. But yeah, all that stuff does help in conveying who you are. So yes, it's fine to have a diverse portfolio, diverse materials, but again, focus on materials that you know really well.
So if the student is really a kind of a painter and that's their most comfortable media, would you say, well, that's okay, but within that media, try and demonstrate breadth and...
Yeah, try to demonstrate breadth. For example, if you have acrylics, try to expand on your technical, well, you have your technical use of acrylics and you have your expressive use of acrylics. Yeah. In one, you're going to show us your technical use, and then in another painting, maybe you want to use acrylics. Well, in the first one, technical acrylics and a brush, and then the next one, acrylics and a palette knife. And then if you want to expand on that and experiment more, palette knife, acrylics, and bubble wrap. How can you incorporate unconventional materials into your portfolio? Again, you're changing the language, you're changing the narrative. What about taking acrylics and mixing it with sawdust? How does that change the painting, the texture? So you're expanding on what can acrylics do, but at the same time, why are you using sawdust? Why are you using bubble wrap? So try to bring meaning to the materials you use as well, and helping convey that idea in regards to that painting's subject matter. Whoa, there we go.
So we've got another question. Will you please speak more to what the foundation year is like with 3 studio classes and 2 liberal arts classes each semester? How do students balance it all and adjust to being at risd? Good question. Thank you.
That is a good question.
I mean, well, I can have a go, and then since Antonio actually went through it, maybe he can say something. I would say we were out this weekend with friends, and they were talking about colleges their kids would or would not want to go to. And they were talking about sports, and they were talking about sororities and fraternities and raising some worries about that. And as a risd professor, I said, wow, I've forgotten that some other universities have all that, because at our place, students come to RISD because they love art and design and they're very focused. And so I would say that, you know, the people who come to RISD are, you know, they have a maturity about them in terms of their interests. So they're not just going for kind of a general college experience and then browsing for maybe a year or two and picking up things and then maybe deciding 3 or 4 years in, you know, perhaps this is where they want to be, and shifting around. You know, most students who come to RISD are, you know, are serious artists and designers, you know, seriously committed to that from the get-go. You wouldn't be here otherwise. And I would say that it is an intense place. It's equivalent to being at a music conservatory or being in a, you know, a very high level, you know, acting Tisch school in NYU. So your life will be that, you know, you start studio at 8 and you'll finish at 6, 3 days a week, say Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then you'll do your liberal arts classes, maybe Tuesday, Thursday. You'll do a seminar on Tuesday, seminar on Thursday. And so it's very immersive. It's pretty full on, and it's an amazing experience. You know, I think it's an amazing creative experience, but it is a rigorous place. Students work very hard here. They love the experience, you know, both in their studio and their liberal arts classes. And in terms of how do they balance this, you know, that's a really good question. You know, some of our students, you know, run, you know, before or afterwards. They you know, take time for themselves at the weekends. They, you know, socialize with each other. But I suppose it is important to say that it's quite a unique experience, and it is quite an intensive experience. And I think it's a very exciting place to be because of that. But to be sure, compared to a general liberal arts college where you might be sleeping in till 10:30 and then turning up at your lecture at 11, that, you know, RISD is a very different place from that. Our students, you know, are committed. There are you know, expectations, and they are excited by the work, excited by the challenges, and just thrive on that kind of atmosphere. So I mean, that's what I would say. Antonio, how was it for you?
Yeah, definitely. I felt a sense of challenge. I felt a sense of like, ooh, I need to quickly get a handle on my organization and time management skills. I mean, if you come in with an open mind and say like, hey, you know, like there's so many different approaches to art making. I mean, you're going to learn a lot, especially in the first semester. I mean, you are taking what you're learning in high school right now, and you're just going to continue to build upon those skills when you get to RISD, where you're dealing more with creative problem solving, limitation and restriction, exploration, experimentation. Again, learning how to express yourself through artwork, but also how do you express yourself through a critique culture, and through that critique culture, how are you also expressing yourself through writing? So all these things will have an impact on your growth as an artist. So I remember going to the writing center. I remember getting help with the liberal arts department, where they provided me a tutor in regards to art history. So it was a challenge for me, but at the same time, the support was there, and I'm, to this day, I'm still grateful for all those things. In terms of the studios, I mean, yeah, you're dedicating a lot of time to the studio practice, drawing, painting, 8 hours. It's a rude awakening for a lot of folks. It was a rude awakening for me, but learning how to manage your time. You know, you got to find time to work on your homework assignments. You got to find time to read passages from a chapter, well, the chapters from a book that, you know, you're from your liberal arts class. You also have to write a paper. You have in-class essays, you have, so there's a lot that you are managing, and also a lot of things that you're juggling. And, you know, it can be a little overwhelming, but at the same time, people who come here understand that. And there's a lot of programming that's here in place to, you know, like, again, help students manage stress level, manage, you know, like, there are workshops that specifically talk about time management. There's meditation practices here at risd. So there's a lot of programming that work with students, again, to help them acclimate to the demand risd expects of the students. I hope that helps.
Antonio, let me ask you a question, and this might be a difficult question, but what did you do for fun?
What did I do for fun?
You were an undergraduate and you were immersed in the, you know, the pressures of all that you've described.
Yeah.
You know, what was the, I mean, Saturday and Sunday, did you hang out?
Yeah, I hung out with friends. I made it a point to hang out with my friends in their studio and other departments. You quickly learn that sometimes you can get siloed, you can get stuck in like a routine, and it's very important to break out of that routine now and then. I made it a point to go running. I'm a runner, so I made sure that I went running in the morning or in the afternoon. Whenever I didn't have a class or a studio, I found time to go running, explore Providence. I went to the movies, I went to the mall, went to the beach, learn how to use the bus system, RIPTA, in Rhode Island. So there's a lot that you can do. There's outside galleries that are outside of risd. Went to Boston to hang out with friends, went to New York. Also went to lectures, went to seminars, went to readings, went to performances, music venues. Pretty much tried to do everything could to take in, you know, like the New England. Went to Connecticut, went to Massachusetts, Vermont. Always have friends who you can stay with over the weekends, especially like when it's like the holidays. I stay with my friends during winter break and during Thanksgiving one year. But there's so much you can do. But again, it's all about how you connect with other students. And yeah, but I did a lot of different stuff. I remember my first year at risd, I went to, I think it was what, sophomore year in illustration, I went to a Bjork concert in Boston. So that was like a highlight. But yeah, there's so much to do.
Yeah. Let me ask you a few more questions, okay?
Go for it.
Anonymous attendee, are grades weighted as equally as the portfolio in the application process? I know there is a holistic approach, but do higher grades count for a weaker portfolio?
It can be both ways. It could be, you know, like good grades, potential in the portfolio. It could be a outstanding portfolio with improving grades, or, you know, in the middle of the row grades. We take all those things in consideration. Grades that are improving, students who are taking honor courses, college level classes, AP, IB, A levels. We take all those things in consideration, but we do, again, we want to make sure we are setting students up for success. So if we do see grades that have dipped, do try to give us an insight to, you know, what happened. You don't have to go full explanation, but just let us know, like, you broke your leg, you had difficulty getting to class, or, you know, like, especially like, you know, with COVID, it impacted everyone's grades. So just be mindful, you know, like, give us a little bit of insight, but don't go full like explanation in terms of like why your grades drop, or, you know, like, here's what happened and here's how I'm bouncing back. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got another one. How do students get connected with galleries or agencies?
Well, we have a wonderful department, risd Careers, that helps students connect with galleries and agencies, companies. Right now, for this month, there's an event called risd Internship Connect, where companies are, this year it's remote. Normally companies will come in person, but due to COVID, they're doing a remote event. But students will have the opportunity remotely, virtually, to chat with companies about internship opportunities. We also have portfolio days, a design portfolio day and a fine art portfolio day, where students again get to chat with companies, employers, in regards to their portfolio, but also make connections. There's networking workshops that the RISD Career Office puts on. So there's a lot of programming that happens in the fall and spring, winter session. Each week, I receive, even as an alum, I receive notification about the programming that is being put on throughout the fall semester and throughout the winter session and spring that you can attend. So even after graduating, you can attend seminars and lectures that focus on the business of art, internships, entrepreneurship, networking, how do you write grants, things like that. Yeah.
Okay, we've got another one here, good one. Is digital art, not anime or fan art, frowned upon in the portfolio, as opposed to the more classic pen, ink, paint, etc.? I'll be intrigued to hear you tell us a little bit about fan art and anime as well. Are they, so can we talk about all three, digital art, anime and fan art? I mean, I know this isn't the question, but I'm changing it.
Yeah, so for us, we discourage fan art and anime because it is a particular style. And we've found that many of those students are difficult to teach because they live and breathe anime. They don't want to do any other kind of artwork. So those students tend to not do so well when it comes to art school in general, because they want to live Japan, they want to be in Japan, and they want to, again, live and breathe, die by anime. And we are in an environment where we are looking for students who are going to work outside their comfort zone, embrace different forms of art. Even if you don't like that form of art, try it. Take that risk, work outside your comfort zone, explore, because you will find that, through that exploration, you might be able, you will see your art in such a different way. But yeah, I mean, you're going to come here and you're going to learn so many different forms of art, different approaches. And again, we don't want to, bring folks here who are just, narrowly single-minded about one particular thing, because we want to see you grow and push the boundaries. But if you, if you want to include it, you're welcome to include it, but we discourage it as much as possible. Fan art, master copies. But in terms of digital art, if you create artwork that's not fan art or anime, we welcome digital art in general. Again, if you are drawing a painting and you use Photoshop to create the artwork, that's totally okay. But when it comes to fan art and anime, avoid that. But yeah, we do value digital art.
And Antonio, can I ask if folks interested in RISD take their own photos and often use them then as inspiration for their paintings or their illustrations, is that a kind of acceptable?
That's acceptable. Yeah. The one thing that you want to try to keep in mind, if you are using your own photos, use your photos as a reference, but not as the main inspiration. And just don't paint what you see in the photo. You got to bring some creativity to that painting. But again, you're just using I use photos as a reference, but I know going into that painting, I'm going to go above and beyond that photo. The reason we discourage artwork based on photography, it becomes flat because students are trying to draw what they see in the photo instead of just using it as a reference, but bringing more of that creativity to create more dimension, more form in the painting itself.
Yeah. We've got a question about attrition during the first year at RISD. I think we keep most of our students, don't we? We have a very strong retention rate. It's on the main website. So if you go to risd.edu and then go to about, you can see
the class average for SAT, ACT, even, that is optional for all students, but you can see the average GPA, and the retention rate is 90%. So the students who come here, stay here. risd does everything it can to support its students. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons why I chose risd, because the students are committed, and the school is committed to, like the students.
We've got a bunch of questions here about folks who've just recently kind of developed their interest in art, and they're asking about how do I develop a portfolio?
Yeah, for those folks who are, late bloomers in terms of building a portfolio, getting into an art class, whether it's in high school, maybe it's at a local community college, a continuing education program, maybe you want to take a private art class, just start drawing at home. But I would say the best thing would be if you could connect with, like the art teacher in high school or a private art class. I remember taking a private art class at a local bookstore, and it was really cool. And I learned how to use acrylics and paint from observation, like working with the basics. And then as we continued through the studio, I learned how to conceptualize more of my ideas while utilizing acrylics and gouache and other type of materials like that. So very important. Yeah. What else?
We've got somebody saying, I want to design packaging. I want to learn about the graphic design aspects of labels, but also 3D modeling and materials involved. Would risd have anything to offer for me?
Yeah, you can do that in graphic design. You can do that in illustration, especially like 3D modeling, like Maya. When it comes to package design, that crosses over into graphic design and industrial design. If you go to risd course descriptions, you can actually see, you can type in package design, 3D rendering, 3D modeling, and those courses will, pop up into the search engine in terms of like the course description for risd.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that, but you do have to remember that in your first year, you're going to be doing a lot of different artistic practices, design practices. Yeah. So part of the risd experience is for you not to be so single track. You come in and you experiment, and you're pushed to experiment. Yeah,
and especially like I was just gonna we're gonna leave it here because it's almost like 5:30. But these are some of the projects that you'll have during your freshman year. Again, you can see like the exploration with how you approach your artwork, but also the materials that you use. So the 3 studios in the foundation year do relate to all 16 majors at risd. So if you excel at 3D, you might want to go to a 3D major. If you excel in 2D, you might want to do a 2D major. But you do get the opportunity to sit in on lectures. The departments will give presentations. During winter session, you have an opportunity to take a class in the major that you think about going into. So as a first-year student, as a first-year applicant, don't focus on like what major you want to study. Focus on showing us that you're going to make it through the foundation year. Show us that you are prepared and ready for the foundation year. Don't show us that you're ready for illustration, that you're ready for graphic design. You're putting the cart before the horse, unless you are a transfer student. But if you're a first-year student, you're not applying directly to a major. So for those of you who are saying, I want to do graphic design, I'm going to apply to graphic design, I'm applying to illustration. In reality, you are applying to the Experimental Foundation Studies program. So I just want to make sure that's very clear. So for those of you who are interested in applying as a freshman, always keep in mind you are applying to the foundation year. Prove to us that you can make it through the foundation year first.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so it's 5:30. I know we had a few more questions, but we're gonna leave it at that. Do join us for our other webinars and check us out on risd.edu, and we'll be happy to answer more of your questions through email, through phone calls. You're welcome to give us a call. Damian, is it okay for folks to give you a call?
Or email me?
Email. Yep. So Yeah, but feel free to reach out to us, folks. We're here Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. Yeah, be happy to answer more questions. But yeah, thank y'all. Have a wonderful evening, and join us for another webinar. So, oh, by the way, we also have a student panel that's later tonight. Yeah, so please join that. I think it starts at 7, I think. But yeah, join us for the student panel. Thank you, Damian, so much. Wonderful presentation, very informative.
Is this going to be loaded up anywhere?
Yes, it will be uploaded to the risd.edu website under Open RISD, and you'll be able to watch the recording there. Yeah.
Thank you so much, folks. Have
Thank
a
you
good
all.
day.
Yes, take care.